Good afternoon and welcome to another Micrographics webinar. Today we are going to be having a look at Autodesk Vault and Teams, how to synchronize your Vault data to the cloud, and a little bit added on to that, how to do it in the other direction as well, how to bring that cloud data down into Vault. I'm your presenter, Carl van Rooyen. I'm an application engineer at Micrographics. My email address is up on the screen, carl@mgfx.co.za. If you have any questions or queries after watching this webinar, you are more than welcome to email me on that. And the last slide in the webinar will also have contact details for our offices countrywide here in South Africa. So to start off, we're going to look at the agenda. We're going to start with a high-level introduction into the topic for the day, and then we will look at an introduction into Vault Pro for those users who are either new to Vault Pro, have heard of it but never used it, or maybe haven't heard of it at all. We'll do a short introduction into Vault Pro, why it's used and what it's used for, and then the same with Fusion Team. We'll do an intro on that. What is Fusion Team? What is it used for? And we'll look at the desktop connector, which allows you to connect those two, Vault and Fusion, together to create that synchronization. And we'll close off at the end with the setup of that Vault sync. How do you go through the process of making sure that Vault and Teams synchronize together? After all that, we'll do a summary followed by a Q&A session where we'll answer any questions. TeamViewer does have a chat panel. If you have any questions, you're able to post them up in the chat panel and I will answer them either immediately if it's relevant to the current section, or at the end, we can go through and answer all the questions. So to start off with a high-level introduction, Vault and Teams, looking at the topic today, we're basically going to be looking at how to synchronize data between Autodesk Vault, which is typically a local network storage system or software, and Fusion Teams, which is a cloud-based storage and data management system. So how can we take this local data management system, which is on a physical server on site, and synchronize that information on there with a cloud-based data management system, which is Teams. We're basically going to be looking at the way in which we can connect these two, which at the end of the day will allow us to share data easily between users who are based on a local site where they are using Vault, and potentially remote users who are working with Fusion or even Inventor, and how they can be connected into that Vault without needing a physical network connection. So if we have a look at Vault Pro on its own, we are looking at a data management solution for CAD users, so basically your designers and managers. If we have a look here on the right-hand side, we can basically see a simple Vault architecture. You have that local server base, so there you see the Vault server in the center, and that centralizes your data. To the right of that shows you the different components that need to be on that Vault server. You have a web server, a file store to store your your actual design files, and then a database which stores all the metadata for those files. So this Vault, you have your clients connecting to it. Those clients need to use a secure standalone app, which the user enters in their username and password to gain access to, and they can then have that port through to the Vault server where they can then access data. So as I said, you need that username and password to access the data in Vault, and Vault can pretty much handle any file type. It is integrated with your design systems as well. So a recap there on the right, you use your local computer, you connect to the Vault client we use the Vault client to connect through to that Vault server, which is a physical server, typically a physical server on site, which then stores the file store and the database. Now, Vault is integrated into your design software. So if you have Inventor, AutoCAD, even Microsoft Office, to name a few, Vault is integrated directly into those packages. Obviously, if you have Vault set up and you have Vault installed. And so inside of Inventor, if you are running with a Vault system, you would have a Vault tab that you can do check-ins and check-outs of files and manage your files through that Vault add-in. So when you check a file out to you and you're working on it, then that file is locked to you as the user. You're the only one who can edit it. Other users can't. When you check it back in, it's open for editing through other designers. Vault also does file versioning and revision control as well. It also allows you to trace where used and what uses the files that you're busy designing with. So you can look at parent-child integration. So that is your Vault Pro. It also allows you that Fusion Team integration, which is what today's webinar is pretty much all about. So that is essentially your local data management using Vault Pro. Now, Vault Pro has been around for quite a long time, been around since before Fusion Teams, but Fusion Teams has been introduced with the coming of age of cloud-based programs and software and cloud storage, especially with the increase in internet speeds with the rollout of fiber. So what is this Fusion Team Hub that I'm talking about? You know, as I said, it's cloud-based. It's a cloud-based storage and collaboration platform. It allows you to centralize your data. So where with Vault, your centralized data is on a physical server, this centralized data is on a cloud-based server, which is accessible from pretty much anywhere in the world. You know, the same as it would be with, let's say, Dropbox or any of the cloud-based storage devices. However, this is more than that because it understands CAD. So it's cloud-based storage and collaboration platform with that centralized data store. It's owned by the company, not the individual named users. So the user accesses the company's cloud storage and the folders that they are given access to. So as a manager or an admin, you can choose which users have access to which folders. And those users can then basically access that information from anywhere. No software is required. It is cloud-based. You log in through your internet browser, and you can view that data that is stored within there. The only time you need software is obviously if you're going to then open up and edit the files, whether it's an Inventor file or a Fusion 360 file. That's the only time you're really going to need your software. But for viewing and kind of file management, you just do that through your web browser. So, as I said, it's cloud-based, and you can pretty much have various people from all over the world connecting through to that cloud-based storage. So, I said a little earlier in the previous slide that Fusion Team is CAD Aware. What this means is that within Fusion Teams, it has the handlers to be able to view 2D and 3D CAD files directly in your web browser. You can see on the right-hand side there a gearbox or a differential that is being viewed inside of, it looks like Safari. And so it's being viewed on the Mac. You don't have to be using a Windows system. And while viewing those files, you're able to actually mark up and comment on the files. You can have a comment stream going to be able to track what's going on with that file. You can view file relationships. You would be able to see, okay, that gearbox housing, what files are related to those? Where is that gearbox being used or the differential being used? If we change something, what is it going to affect? So you can view those relationships directly in the browser. You can also access and edit the CAD files. through Fusion 360 if you are editing those Fusion 360 files. And it is also, you are also able to integrate it with Inventor through the use of the desktop connector. So if you have Inventor files stored on that cloud drive, desktop connector would allow you to be able to access them and edit them inside of Inventor. And Fusion Teams also has integration with Vault Pro. We are able to upload files to the Team Hub project. And once again, that's a point that we are aiming to look at in this webinar. So we have the desktop connector and a little bit more about Fusion Teams. It allows you to store and manage your designs in the cloud. It is centrally owned by the company, and then users are added or are given access to it. This is also allows you to make your CAD files available to external collaborators. You may have a subcontractor who machines parts for you. They don't have Vault, they can't afford a Vault license, but they have Fusion 360. They're able to then use that Fusion 360 and the project sync to have files shared to them from Vault. You can track markups and design changes within it, and you can connect the local and cloud storage. This is all possible through the desktop connector. Desktop connector is your go-between between your cloud storage and bringing that cloud storage down onto your local hard drive and synchronizing that data on your local hard drive. So it connects the Autodesk cloud drives to your local hard drive. It allows you to browse cloud drives through Windows Explorer, but it's more than that. It maintains file references. It knows the links between files. So as an example, if you are a Inventor user and you take a assembly file and you just copy that assembly file and paste it into Dropbox, Dropbox is going to say, thank you very much for that assembly file. You put one file in, and that's it. It will let you put that assembly file in without any of the related part files. If you had to try open that assembly file in a different location, accessing Dropbox, maybe at home or while you're away on holiday, and you try open up that assembly, Inventor is going to tell you, sorry, there's no parts that can be found. So Dropbox didn't warn you or give you any warning that, hold on, you're putting an assembly in, but that assembly should have part files. The desktop connector will do that for you. When you upload a CAD document into it, it's going to look for those references. So by putting an assembly file into your cloud drive through the desktop connector, it's going to tell you, hold on, please first specify a project, and then it can use that project to then search for all the references for that assembly, and it will then automatically upload all those referenced files as well. So not only do you just get the assembly file, you get all the parts, all the drawings, everything related to it going into that drive. So when you need to access it remotely, you have all the files that are required. So just to go into a little bit of a demo on what these three elements look like, I'll start off with Vault, just a basic introduction to Vault. You would launch Vault and then be asked to sign in. And once you sign in, you would have access to the user interface where you can browse either your files. So on the left-hand side here, I have a projects folder with various projects listed inside of that folder. And I could work within Vault using standard Vault workflows to be able to take files out of Vault, work on them, check those files back into Vault. And this would be all on a local network. One disadvantage with Vault is if you do need to access files, or if somebody from outside the company needs to access files directly from Vault, they need to have this Vault client. They would need to have a license to be able to run the Vault client. and they would also need to have access to your network. So currently I'm sitting at home, giving this presentation from home, but the Vault server that I'm connected to is sitting at my office, which is a couple of kilometers away, but I'm connected through a VPN to view the information. If your customer is, within the same region or has a decent internet connection between your office and where they are, they could connect with a VPN. But you're opening yourself up to having to give them direct access onto your network through a VPN. So there's a security issues there. So the Project Sync will help alleviate some of those sort of security concerns of giving external people VPN access onto the network. So currently here, if I view files, if I go into, let's say, Fusion Team Sync, this is a test folder that I have. Go into architecture and external, and I can see that at the moment, these files are empty in Vault. And if I go into the folder structure for engineering, there is a CAM folder here where there is some information. And I have various projects set up just as test projects within Vault, where information would be able to pass back and forth between Vault and the user. Now, that is using a Vault client that has to be installed and configured for the end user. If we look at Fusion Teams, I can go here into Chrome, and I'm viewing Fusion Teams here in Chrome. So let's go to this one here. This is the Micrographics Mech Fusion team. So this is our team hub for all the application engineers and support engineers at Micrographics. We have various projects set up here, and we can access those projects. We'll see here MGFX Vault. This is actually a project that I have set up, which is synchronized between the Vault server that I was just viewing through the client and the Fusion 3 or the Fusion team. So we can see here that we've got those same folders. There's engineering, in this case external, and we've got the various folders as needed in here. Now, some of these folders are extra. We'll look at how folders are synchronized a little bit later on in the slides. Now, for this, if we go to a project, let's say MGFX Vault, if I wanted to set this up to give external people access to this, we'd be able to go to project members and then add a user. So you'd be able to, here on the right-hand side, invite users and add them to the project. We can see here that we have all the Micrographics technicians listed as having access to this project, and you're able to change the level of access that each of those users have. So they can either be an editor, they can they could be a viewer, so they can only view information, or even a project admin to allow them more rights to be able to make changes to the project. You can also remove them from the project completely. So this is where you would manage who has access to that folder. So once again, if you had an external supplier who was machining parts for you, you could set up a folder for them where you put that information in that you know that they need to have access to, and you then invite them to that project and allow them to then have access and open up and use those files for machining. This whole process avoids the need to export neutral formats that you would then either email or FTP to the external collaborator, to the person that needs the files. So it helps streamline that process of sharing data between people. So currently this here is looking at just Micrographics Team Hub on its own. This is what you would be seeing, and you can access the various files. So if I go here, let's have a look at MGFX Cam. If we go into MGFX CAM, there's a CAM training folder, and we'll have the various folders here. Go into 2D and view the different files. Now, let me just get a folder here quickly. So with Fusion 360, we said it's, with Teams, we said that you can view relationships between files. So if I go here to this kitchen island and select the island assembly itself to view it, we'd be able to see here that it's loading the references on what files does this use. So we can see here inside of Teams, okay, these are the files that are being used, or the design files used within that main assembly. We can go in and we can actually preview this online. I may need to generate a preview. Let's just give it a second or two here while it generates that preview. And here we now have that online preview of that kitchen island. We're able to rotate it around, view it, view the bill of materials, essentially the design structure of that, isolate items by selecting them, and then viewing that information. So this opens up a much broader field. It opens up being able to view models to a lot more people, being able to do it online. Then the third aspect that I mentioned, the first being Vault, the second being the Fusion Teams, the third being the desktop connector. With your desktop connector installed, you will have, like with any of your other cloud drives, a icon that sits in the system track. So there we've got our Autodesk desktop connector. If I right-click on that, we'll see that I'm signed in as myself. I could work offline. We can refresh drives. And the way this looks in Windows Explorer, we'll actually see that if I go to this PC, there's a Fusion 360 drive. And so I'm able to go into that Fusion 360 drive and then view the various teams that I am a member of. So I am a member of a couple of different teams here, Micrographics Mech being one of them, able to go into that team and then view that information. So this is just a way of viewing the exact same information, but through your Windows Explorer. So we'll have a look here, and I can go into that MGFX CAM folder and browse and see those files that are in that folder. So I'll browse through, and we'll find that there's the various different files that are in there. These are, you can see the F3D files and their status. So these are Fusion files. If I go back to Micrographics Mech and go into MGFX Vault, there are those same folders that were synchronized with Vault, and we can see the different file types here. There's the kitchen island that we just viewed in Chrome, and there are those files for that kitchen island. And so this just allows you to use a local folder to be able to browse and find files. And this would then allow you also, in this case here, there's a frame generator project here, which I could open up inside of Inventor and go into the designs and work with the files. So if I was an external collaborator, the company I work for or who hires me could have that assembly uploaded from their Vault into the cloud. I would use the desktop connector to connect to that cloud drive, view that file as I am now, and take that assembly and open it up inside of Inventor and work with it. I don't need to go and view it online. I wouldn't need to go into Vault to find it in Vault. I wouldn't need Vault at all. I would just need Inventor and that Fusion team, essentially a Fusion Teams participant license, to be able to be added to that project and participate in that project. So that is the third sort of element that would bring that local and cloud storage together. So if we go back into the slideshow, we're going to basically cover the why. Why would you set up Vault Project Sync? So as we see on the right-hand side here, we have that team synchronizing with Vault and the desktop connector in the center, allowing that connection. But why would we want to do this? It's going to easily allow you to share data with external parties, whether they are using Inventor or they have Fusion. It could be AutoCAD, it could actually pretty much be any software, as long as they have access to, or they have a Fusion Team participant license, they would be able to access a Fusion Team drive and get data from that drive. So it allows you to easily share data with external parties, or have the owners of the information share that data with you if you are that external party. So there's two ways to look at this. If you're a company sharing information, or if you're actually a contractor who needs to receive information, it can work both ways. This synchronization allows all the data to be kept up to date. It keeps it synchronized. We will have a look in the setup of this, how to set it up and how to actually set up a schedule. How often does this information get synchronized between Fusion Teams and Vault itself? And we can also choose the directionality of the synchronization. If I work for company A and I hire somebody, I pay somebody to machine parts for me, I want to supply them with parts, but I don't want them to be able to change those parts and update my record keeping of my data for those parts. So I could synchronize that those parts are uploaded from my Vault into Fusion Teams, but that update only travels in that single direction. So I upload those files. What the user does with them from that point on is up to them. They can download the file, access the file from the cloud drive, but any changes that are made do not travel back into Vault. So it's a single direction. And you can choose whether to upload from Vault, download to Vault, or as the arrows show here in the slide, it can be a continuous, it can be a synchronization both ways. So it doesn't matter which side the change is made, it will update to the other side. And as mentioned earlier, with this synchronization between that local server and the cloud-based servers team, there's no need to give access to your local network. You don't have to have a user come in and connect physically to your network. They don't have to connect with the VPN. They can pull the information from that cloud drive. So at the end of the day, it's actually a more secure way of sharing your data. So requirements, I think these would be, some of these will be pretty obvious at this point in the webinar, but just to rehash the requirements here, you need to have Fusion Team licenses, whether that is a design license for a designer with Fusion, or it is purely a participant license, let's say for somebody who uses Inventor, or dare I even say something like EdgeCam, where they're just machining for you. Then someone like that would need a participant license to be able to be added to that team, to that project on the team. So any of those participants need a license. You need desktop connector to be able to connect the two storage systems. If you're using Vault, it needs to be Vault Professional to be able to set up the project sync. And with Vault Professional, you would need to enable the Vault job processor and have a Vault job processor installed to be able to process the upload and download of that Vault information. So those are your requirements to start setting this up. So for each of those requirements, what needs to happen? if you're looking at Fusion teams and you are the owner of that Fusion team, you would need to create a project which you can then use to synchronize if that project does not already exist. And then you need to add your collaborators or your external collaborators to that project. So that is if you are sharing the information and you're creating and owning that project. If you're a participant, if you're receiving information, then you need to essentially ensure that you're given access to the correct team's project. So the company you're working for, that you're doing the work, they will add you to that project, and you just need to make sure that you have the correct level of access to that project. And of course, that team's participant license to be able to make sure that you can connect. So a demo here, basically what I already covered is if you go into your team hub, you would have a project. So let me just go back down to MGFX Vault. That would be the project. And you would then add those project members or invite those project members onto that project. So just a quick recap there on that. So that would be from a Fusion Teams perspective. Then you would need to make sure that you have desktop connector installed. So you would install that on the computer that connects to Vault, as well as the external collaborators would need that so that they can browse through Windows Explorer to get the files that you are sharing with them. They could also use they would only need to install it if they are using something other than Fusion to access those files. So if they're using Inventor, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, CATIA, whatever it might be, they would install the desktop connector and log in with their Autodesk account. So you would then sign in with that relevant account that has those folders or being given access to those folders. Then the last and most important part is the Vault Professional component, because this is looking at how we set up the project sync from inside of Vault. So a couple of things to do from the Vault settings: ensure that Job Processor is enabled. You would install Job Processor on the computer that connects to Vault. This would also be the same computer that has the desktop connector installed. And an administrator would then need to configure the project sync management. And that's what the next couple of slides will go through. So just to have a look at the Job Processor, we'll see here that I have Job Processor running in the background, and that would allow you to run the different job types or the various job types. And we'll see here that if we go through, one of the job types would be to, where is it? There's the Autodesk Vault manual download, there's scheduled uploads, scheduled downloads. So those are the various jobs that will run to synchronize the data between Vault and Teams. So within Vault Professional, to set this up, you would go to your Vault settings and there's a Collaborate tab. You're able to set up multiple synchronization definitions. So you can actually sync to different cloud drives. So you may not be synchronizing to one cloud drive at a time. You may actually be synchronizing your Vault data to multiple projects or multiple, basically to multiple Fusion projects. And so you would create a synchronization definition for each project that you want to sync to. But inside of that sync definition, you're able to set up multiple Vault folders to synchronize to that cloud drive. So you would create multiple definitions for different cloud drives. But within a definition, you can set up multiple folder synchronizations to synchronize different folders to that one cloud drive. And this gives you a lot of flexibility in sharing who you share the files to and how you share those files. And the last note there is that update can be set to, you can set the direction of that update. Do you only upload from Vault to the cloud drive? Do you only download from the cloud drive onto Vault, so you're just pulling information down? Or is it bi-directional? It will just update in both directions. So I've done a lot of talking on how it's done. Let's look at physically how it is done within the software. So if I go over to Vault, I'm logged in as an administrator. So this is one thing that is important. The administrator has to set this up for you to be able to do this. So we'll go Tools, Administration, Vault Settings. And we'll go to the Collaborate tab. On the Collaborate tab, there is the Project Sync Management. So we can go ahead and configure Project Sync Management, and this will give you your cloud drive mapping. You can see here currently that I have that Fusion Team Sync definition set up, and the shared Vault folder is $projects Fusion Team Sync. So I have that synchronization set up already. If I go in here and edit this, we will see there is the Vault folder, and then the cloud drive folder is listed here. And I'll actually create a new folder synchronization, new synchronization definition after going through this. So we'll enable cloud drive mapping. That would map the drives and allow the syncing. Enable manual sync allows you to manually download and synchronize information. And at the bottom here, we can then add folders to synchronize. So here I have the various folders: architecture, engineering, there's external, and machining. So the three folders that are being synchronized. Now for each folder, you have your general settings. So here is your action to either upload to cloud, download from cloud, or bi-directional. And you can then schedule it. So you could set daily at 6 o'clock in the morning, start updating. So when everyone gets to work, it's updated. Or you could say, well, every 8 hours you wanted to synchronize, or every 12 hours you wanted to synchronize. So you have that synchronization. What makes this really nice is that you can also set up filters. So you can set up, in this case, for the architectural folder, I am only going to download Revit files. So I'm looking for that RVT file extension, and it will only download Revit files from that architectural folder. So I'm limiting what is being downloaded. What I like about this is if you are uploading files for a person who is going to then machine them, let's say a machining supplier, I would look at creating a property within a custom property, or it could even be a keywords property that contains, let's say, a keyword called machined. And so if the keyword in that file is machined, it would upload that file to the cloud for then the machining supplier or even the internal machine shop to then access and start processing. So you can use these property filters to actually filter what information is being passed on. So you can exclude all the junk that the person doesn't need access to. Once that's set up, the synchronization will start. So I'm going to go ahead here and synchronize or set up a synchronization for the MGFX CAM folder. Currently in Vault, I'll close this down. I have a MGFX CAM folder, which has a CNC folder and a purchased parts folder. If I go to Fusion Teams, in the Team Hub, I also do have an MGFX CAM folder, but in this instance, that CAM folder only has a CAM or project. The CAM project only has a CAM training folder in. So I want to connect these two and have the two synchronized together. So we'll be able to go to the Vault settings, go to collaborate and configure the project sync management. We'll create a new definition, and I'm going to call this definition MGFX CAM. Vault folder will be that MGFX CAM folder, and the cloud drive folder here, you'll see that I need to browse out to Fusion 360. At this point here, you could choose which hub you want to synchronize to. In this case, I'm still going to synchronize to Micrographics Mech, MGFX CAM, and so I'm setting up those two projects. I'm going to enable and also enable the manual sync option. Include design documentation. Will also upload any related drawing files for those files that are being synchronized. And for the sync folder, I'm going to add that I want to basically, in this case, I want to synchronize pretty much the entire folder. So I'm going to set that to synchronize, and I want this one bi-directional. I'm going to make sure to apply actions to subfolders and hidden files as well. In my case here, I want those subfolders to synchronize as well. Bi-directional, let's see, schedule. I'm going to say every 12 hours. And then I'm not going to put any filters on for this example. I'll hit OK. That will then create that synchronization. And job processor will then, at the next time it needs to synchronize, start that synchronization. So let me just see if I can kickstart it here by pausing job processor and hitting resume. And we'll see if it finds, if it has submitted that job to start synchronizing those folders. It doesn't look like it, so it will probably start it a bit later. Let's have a look. No, it's still idle. So we can use the download from cloud drive option. That would actually allow me to access those different definitions. We can see there's the Fusion Team Sync and the MGFX CAM definition. So I'll grab that newly created definition, hit next, and then browse through those folders to find the file that I want to upload. So I want to grab that generic Vice F3D and download that from the cloud drive into Vault. Once again, I do just need to, because it's a webinar and I want to get this going quickly, I am going to go to job processor and just pause it and resume, just so that it picks up that process a little quicker, that job a little bit quicker, and runs the job. So we see here, it is going to synchronize that. I'm going to run that job and synchronize that information. While that synchronizes and runs, I am just going to quickly find my Fusion Teams, my team viewer side panel in the meeting and see if there is any chats. And I have now lost, there it is. See if there are any questions quickly while we wait for that to synchronize. I don't see any chats coming through. It looks like it's basically running, to me it looks like it's running the full synchronization now. So if I refresh Vault, let's see if any of those files have pulled through. Okay, so here desktop connector is giving me a warning. So I think this process is having a small issue. Let's have a look here quickly. Okay, so it is still processing that. Once it's finished processing, we would see those folders from the Micrographics mech team. So this CAM training folder will then be uploaded into Vault, and the files from Vault would then have been loaded across to Fusion. It seems to have had an issue with, it seems to be having an issue with that specific folder in Vault. So what I'm going to do here quickly is just pause this quickly and here's the sign out. And just quickly sign myself back in again. The joys of doing live demos. Okay, let me get back into Vault and have a look to see if any of that information has synchronized. So we can see here, I'm looking at the desktop connector. We can actually see that the desktop connector has pending actions. And we can view those pending actions. So we can see here the files being uploaded. So we can see the files in those folders that I was uploading. So we can see that they are busy running. This one here is busy running. And the various places. So we've got workspace sync happening between those files. I think what I'll do now is we'll leave that to run. Seems that my job processor has gone for a loop and it doesn't want to pause. So once that has finished running, both the Vault information and the Fusion information would have been synchronized across to the alternate storage location. So we would be able to access those various files. There's one that I had done earlier for instances like this. So the Fusion Teams Sync. If I go into this folder here and I go into engineering, I'm able to go here, let's say to the external folder. And I spoke earlier about that frame generator example. So I can go into workspaces here for it. And we have the designs folder inside of Vault for that. So we'll just pick that frame generated assembly. This assembly exists both here inside of Vault. You can see the preview here in Vault. Let's go ahead and just preview the thumbnail. And as well as inside of the Micrographics Mech Team Hub. There's the MGFX Vault folder or project. Inside of that project, we can see the architecture, engineering, test, that's engineering, external. There we have the workspaces folder, designs, and there is the frame generator or _FG design in the cloud as well. So as a, let's say, a non-Vault user, I'm able to still access and view that design file using the cloud and using Fusion Teams to view that file and all of its design references. Yeah, so let's get back to presentation. To sum this up, the project synchronization between Vault and the Team Hub allows you to easily share information in either direction, whether it's from the Team Hub into Vault or from Vault into the Team Hub. This synchronization allows for a much easier way to share data between collaborators. It also expands your local data onto the cloud to allow for that ease of sharing and collaboration and viewing. So for those Vault users who have been struggling to give data to suppliers or get data from clients, setting up the project sync is a relatively quick and easy way of creating a way of sharing that information. So I hope that this session was very informative. I hope that you have learned something new, given you some ideas on how to make that process a lot easier with being able to share information between a local and a cloud drive and synchronize that information. We're going to close the session with some Q&A. Just see if there are any questions. I'm going to view the chat panel quickly to see if there are any questions. I see there have been no questions that have come through, so I am going to then close off the webinar just with saying thank you for your time and your attention for this webinar. And you are more than welcome to contact your local or your closest Micrographics office. We are based in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, and Durban. We have the contact information for those branches on our last slide here. And yeah, if you have any more information, feel free to contact us. And if you have any more questions, wanting more information, feel free to contact us, and we will help you out as best as possible. Once again, thank you for your time and your attention, and I hope you have a good day going forwards. Thank you. Cheers.